Hi, Clutter Fairy fans. This is the Clutter Fairy Weekly for February 18th, 2025. I'm your co-host, Ed Gumnick, and I'm speaking with Gayle Goddard, certified professional organizer and owner of the Clutter Fairy in Houston, Texas.
Hi, everybody. The Clutter Fairy Weekly is the webcast and podcast that digs deep into the clutter that piles up between you and the life that you want to be living. We explore the habits and behaviors that lead to clutter, and we suggest strategies to slow the accumulation, reduce the collection, and comfortably manage the stuff we decide to keep.
If you're new to our Zoom meeting, we want to let you know that you can share your comments and questions via the chat, and I'll try to make sure Gayle addresses them before we move on to another topic. You can also use the raise hand feature if you'd like to ask a question or make a comment yourself via audio or video. And we're streaming the webcast live on Facebook, so you can share questions and comments there, and I'll relay them to Gayle.
Hi, Facebook.
We're going to start by recapping last week's Weekly Tittle, which was called Get Them on Board. The assignment was to engage another member of your family or household in an organizing task or project. Let's hear from our participants live in Zoom and on Facebook. Who had an open, honest, calm, compassionate conversation with someone who shares your space this week? Please let us know in the comments. You can also let us know if you had, some angry shouting about the clutter situation in your home.
I did hear that. I heard that little giggle you were having while you were reading that.
Yeah. YouTube viewer Auntie Gliz offered an intriguing take on last week's tittle. Auntie writes, "Thank you for this video. My husband has passed away and I live alone now, but I found this topic useful anyway, as I realized I am the other person who shares my space, who I share my space with, and who complicates my decluttering process when I fail to follow through with organizing systems I've created, and how that affects the me who's so stressed by the clutter. I'll work at bargaining with myself to come up with systems that work better for me and compromises I can live with."
First, I'm so sorry for your loss. And I know how hard it is for you to adjust to living alone after living so long with a companion. Part of the readjustment to living alone is realizing, just like you have, that now you're responsible for everything and you're the one who can create the environment to be how you want to live. So, how you feel the most comfortable, how you feel most at peace. I'm so glad that our topic helped you see that. And I hope you'll keep checking in to tell us how it's going as you negotiate with yourself about managing your own space. We would love to hear it. And I appreciate that unique take on this part of me that is uh, distressed about the clutter is fighting with the part of me who's not following through the systems I create. So it was perfect. And I'm sure many in our audience can relate to that point of view. So thank you for sharing it.
Yeah, I think it's a useful reminder
Mhm.
that sometimes the person who crafts the careful and meticulous systems is your, totally on version of yourself.
Yeah.
And the systems need to work for the fatigued, not really feeling it today, had a terrible
Right.
day,
Totally overwhelmed version.
somebody yelled at me at work, somebody honked at me in traffic. That
Mm,
version of yourself needs to be able to keep up your system. So, you need a system that has a little flexibility in it, and compassion and patience with yourself.
right. Well, and the idea of having it be a system that can cope with the version of you that's not feeling it that day. It's
Yeah,
important. Like you ought to be able to, maybe you can't do it 100%, but if it's flexible enough, you can at least do some of it when you're not feeling it, and you can catch up another day when you are feeling it.
exactly. Let's see, I'm looking for tittle responses. Lots going on in the chat.
Hubby helped
Um,
with,
do you see one? Sorry.
I saw one from Libby.
Oh,
I
okay.
saw part of it flash by.
Well, Catherine says achieved washing plates around kitchen and display rail, 44 plates. Goal accomplished.
Woohoo! That's a lot of washing. Good job. I'm sure it looks, very refreshed. That's certainly a spring cleaning task to do 44 plates that are on display. So
Oh
good
my
job.
gosh, yes.
That's a
M,
lot.
M says, I am alone, so gave myself a talking to. There was no shouting. There was no shouting, but plenty of resistance.
Right. That's what we're talking about. Like, you don't have to create something that, you're going to resist completely. You need to create something that you're more willing to work with.
Laura says, me, my husband and I completely rearranged his at-home office, furniture,
Oh,
rug, trash, and all the things that never belonged in there.
hey, that was a good accomplishment. I'm sure you're super happy with the results of that. Good job. I'm sure there's lots of envy in the room as she talk about having accomplished that one. That's a big one.
Barbara reports, I had a mostly quiet, blissful week alone, but there was some whispering, put it away.
Were you whispering to yourself?
I think so.
That's good. That's
Or
good.
the voices that keep her company.
Of the or the ghost of the person who's usually there who wasn't there. Good job. Listen to that voice occasionally.
Paul says, live by myself, so didn't do the tittle. Instead, I went through sentimental items and got rid of several, including my wedding dress. That's a
Oh,
biggie.
that's a biggie. That's a very biggie. But I think it's, that's fabulous that you're not wearing the wedding dress again. So it can either go out to become someone else's wedding dress or it can stay in your house and be ignored. And so I appreciate that you faced that challenge and put it back out on the river of stuff. Good job.
Connie says, I postponed the rewind talk to a time DH would be more receptive.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, you got to work with
You
people
got
where they are.
you got
Yeah.
to judge your environment. You got to judge whether they can listen to you or not. Absolutely.
Lise says, hubby helped with all the cable cords, disposed a box full.
Oh, that's good. That's very good. Everybody's super intimidated by cables. Somehow it makes them super nervous. And this is why I want everybody to label when you get a new thing with new cables that you immediately put on some kind of sticker or something that isn't going to disappear that tells you what it goes with. So you don't have to pick up the cable later and go, what is this for? I have no idea. And then you keep it because you're afraid. So if you label it, then you can look at it and go, oh, I don't have that thing anymore. I already gave that thing away or it broke. And that means I don't need to keep the cord for it and you can throw it out.
Ginger gives us a very detailed tittle report. She says, we've had this conversation in our home many times. This week we had another conversation. The conversation moved on to us acknowledging we're getting older and we need to think about our future. Facing some facts, we are in a new stage of life. He's worried he'll die before me and leave me overwhelmed with too much to deal with. His physical strength and mobility were greatly reduced in a 2022 health crisis. Um, she goes on to say, we discussed continuing this decluttering in our home. I'm digging deeper these days to clean out the lake house and put it up for sale. We don't go there now. We become homebodies. That's
That's a big one.
a big uh act of acceptance.
Mm.
3, sell or give away some of our animals, especially the goats. We also have geese, turkeys, ducks, and chickens, plus Diesel, the pot-bellied pig.
Oh, yeah. I think that's a lot of caregiving that you probably need to let be on somebody else's plate now, right?
4, sell one boat to our handyman. He's been using it. We haven't. The other boat may be harder for him to let go of. 1970 Boston Whaler, his fishing boat.
Oh, my. But one out of two is one less that somebody else has to deal with later. So
Yeah.
there you go.
And 5, start selling off my husband's tools. He has large inventory of auto mechanic and woodworking tools. She added, note to self, must learn brevity. Nah.
Nah. You always have great things to say, Ginger. Don't worry about it.
And you write well and clearly, so you don't need to change a thing.
You give us lots to work with. Thank you, dear.
Laura added, I've been asking him for months to check the cables only for things we keep, easier than going through all of them, and it's never happened.
Right? Because, it's a chore and nobody wants to be bothered. But the thing is that most of the things that you have are plugged into the wall right now. Like they have all the cables they're supposed to have, they're attached to stuff. And, one of my friends, so this is my friend who's a chiropractor and my other friend who's an organizer in offices. They got together in the chiropractor's office and worked behind the desk. And there was a computer and a printer and a screen and a like a credit card machine, and they all had cables, and she was trying to move something, and so she had to unplug everything. And when she started pulling all the cables that were there from underneath the counter, she pulled out like 10 extra cables that weren't attached to anything. They were just like there, left over from who knows what. They had a purpose at some point. But when she got done, there was the cables that went to the pieces of equipment that were there and a big old clear place underneath her feet that had been filled with cables that were not attached to anything on any end. It's like, how did that happen? Well, that's what happens when you've been in the same office for 30 years. The equipment comes and goes, and the cables apparently stay. So if you assume that everything that you have that is working and attached to a cable right now has their cables, and then you go and look at other things that might have cables and see if their cable is there with them, and you figure out that everything in the house has its cable, then you can assume that all the rest of the cables are not necessary and throw them out.
Okay, we have time for one more here, and Jackie, who's with us on Facebook, says my friend was visiting and made some suggestions on making the kitchen more efficient and not hiding my beautiful glass canisters. I thought about and took her advice. I gained more counter space and I've been keeping up with the dishes much better.
Oh, that's cool. Good job. Well, that was nice of your friend to make a suggestion. And also for you to not feel intimidated or distressed by her making a suggestion.
Right, or insulted or
Yeah,
shamed.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. She just made an idea. She gave you an idea and she didn't have any investment in it. And you took it and did it and absorbed it. And that's fabulous. And now you like it better. So that's super cool.
All right, let's get on to our main topic. The desire to open our homes to family and friends is a fundamental human need, but clutter-impaired people often let shame, fear of judgment, and the physical condition of their homes stand in the way of the fun and fulfillment of entertaining. Today, we're going to talk about what guests need from us and suggest ways to start entertaining even if your space is still a work in progress.
Of course, we're going to start with the content from our survey because you guys came and answered all of our questions. So thank you very much.
Yeah, so our first question was designed to find out, what kind of entertaining our audience like to do. And so we asked if you could wave a magic wand to make all your clutter disappear or become beautifully organized in an instant. Isn't that a nice thought?
I know, right?
What kinds of entertaining would you like to do in your theoretical perfect space? We put perfect in quotation marks because we don't really subscribe to that whole idea that
I know,
any
we
of our
don't really mean it.
spaces will ever get perfect. Yeah. No,
Right?
perfect is perfect is just too hard a standard. So Amanda says hosting game nights somewhere other than my dining room table. There's a space in the basement that would be perfect for it if only I got rid of some stuff.
So it's good that you already have a place, like you've already got the dining room table that you can host game nights for. So that's fabulous. I'm proud of you that you are able to do that for yourself already. So you're just dreaming of a better space, a space that you feel like it would be more comfortable or suit the task better of having game nights. And so that seems like a perfect focus. You want to upgrade. So go start working in the basement and give it a shot. If you can get rid of some stuff, then you can upgrade your game nights. And wouldn't everybody love to do that? So give it a shot.
Evelyn says, I'd love to be able to welcome unannounced guests and not having to panic and to pretend I'm not home.
I know that people do that. They do have that moment of, oh my God, there's somebody at the door. Ah, I can't let them in. And who wants to have that feeling when somebody comes to the door? You don't want to have that feeling. You want to be able to open the door and go, oh my gosh, I'm so happy to see you. Come in and let's, talk and catch up. You totally want to be able to have that experience instead. And so reducing that feeling of panic and anxiety when somebody comes to the door unannounced is a perfect thing to aim for. It's a perfect reason to motivate you to try to clear it up enough so that you don't have to have that panic feeling.
Penny's response was similar. She says, having no anxiety when the doorbell rings and
Mm,
inviting guests in without fear. So,
exactly.
yeah, I really feel for the people who, it's not only just that they can't, dream of having a party or inviting guests deliberately, but even have to live in fear of people just showing up.
And not be able to come in.
Yeah. Johanna says, I would invite my friends from my support group. Until now, we have only ever met at someone else's place. I would have my neighbor over for coffee and a chat. I would try dating again without fear of having to bring the guy home eventually and him seeing what he got himself into.
That one makes me laugh.
Yeah.
That guy, if you bring the guy home, he's not going to be worried about the house. He's just happy to come and visit. But I think the idea that you want to be able to reciprocate, you're in a support group and you are always meeting at somebody else's place, and being able to invite everybody over to your house for what feels like your turn to host everybody. I can totally see why you would want to do that and share the burden, to share the workload, I guess, of hosting the meeting, hosting the group at someone's place. And so that's a wonderful goal to aim for. Having your neighbor over to have coffee and a chat, and being able to bring the guy home and not having him panic. I think those are all excellent goals and perfectly reasonable socializing desires to have, I guess, is the way that I want to put that. It's like you want to be able to to interact with your support group and have them at your house. You want to have your neighbor come over, and they're not, it's not a big huge project that you're not trying to put on a big massive party. You're just trying to have the girlfriends over to chat. And so being able to do that, it's a low bar to aim for, and you can probably accomplish it if you focus on clearing the spaces that would allow that to take place. And I
Yeah.
think that would be top of the priority list.
Well, and I said Johanna, it may be Johanna, so I apologize. I didn't actually try to figure out where you were writing to us from, and so I pronounced it in a very American fashion. Um, she doesn't mention what kind of support group, but
Mm.
it occurred to me too that reading her response, having people in your home is a way to increase the level of intimacy in your relationships. So, to host the support group for a change instead of going to someone else's house might be kind of an important milestone, you know. So
And
I
by
hope
definition, if they're a support group, they're already people that are
predisposed to be
trying to be,
supportive of you.
exactly, they're trying to
Yes,
be
yeah,
supportive. It's not a bunch of people that are trying to judge you. They're trying to be supportive. And so for whatever you're getting support around, that's their focus. And it is not, um, you know, let's go to her house and be judgy.
and beat up on her.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
is not the goal. That is
yeah,
antithesis of what the group is meeting for. So what I'm saying is you have a very welcoming, easy audience to aim for them coming over. It's not going to have to be perfect for them to come over.
right.
And so give it a shot.
Denise says, I've made so much progress that I am able to host dinner and holiday parties or have friends over for lunch. It is like a miracle.
Woohoo! That is exactly what we're aiming for. So I'm so glad that you're doing that. That's wonderful. And I know that your life is richer because you've made the progress and you're having the friends over and you get to enjoy the people that you care about. And that is fabulous.
Okay, I'm just going to do one more here. We have more we'll share later if we have time, because
Mm.
people expressed a real variety of different things that they'd like to be able to do. Val says she wants to be able to host game nights and dinners and spontaneous tea parties. I also want my friends and family to know they can come and stay a night.
And that's being able to stay the night is another level of hospitality that requires a little bit more spaces cleared and things provided for them. It's another couple of layers of things that you have to worry about being able to feed them that night and the next day, and having a comfortable place to sleep and a bathroom to use where they can actually take a shower or bath. And so there's a whole nother level of services that you have to provide for somebody to come and spend the night. But how great if you can have that little extra visit time. That is super important. So good job. And let's aim for that. Let's aim for I have a guest room and people can come and stay in it, and I don't have to clean for 5 days before they can come and stay in it. It's ready. I can change the sheets. I can update the pillowcases, and somebody can come that night and stay at the house. And wouldn't that be fabulous? We wish that for you. So, as humans on the planet, we all have a basic need for socialization, the need to interact with others, to relax together, and build relationships. And one of the ways that we do it is having people over to our homes. We entertain each other. We do that in very casual or elaborate ways, but the goal for a movie night or a fancy dinner party is the same, is to connect with people. We can't all be Martha Stewart or the Barefoot Contessa. Martha Stewart being the super fancy version, the Barefoot Contessa being the more casual version,
But
but
still rolling in money.
still rolling in money, exactly. And skill, right?
Right.
And staff.
Yeah.
But we all want to enjoy our friends and family. And at the heart, successful entertaining is providing a comfortable and welcoming space that's within your capabilities, your budget, and the present state of your home. You may have limited means or be working with limited physical capabilities that still need to be accommodated, but you can experience the benefit of socializing with family and friends anyway. Some of us, however, feel uncomfortable having people over to socialize because of the state of the house. We let the clutter isolate us from those very relationships that we need in order to enjoy a good life. Don't let the state of your house keep you from a social life or from your ability to offer hospitality. So, how can you get comfortable with a person coming over? Welcome a guest to your home while providing the minimum level of comfort for them that you can manage and that you can afford. Ed told me a story when we were talking about this topic that provides a good illustration. He once had to make an unannounced visit to a colleague's house to tell her something important. When he arrived, this person was uncomfortable letting him into the house, so instead she offered to serve him iced tea on the front porch. They sat outside, drinking tea and talking. She was able to provide a basic level of hospitality so she could enjoy Ed's sparkling company. And in the process, she created a social interaction that benefited them both. Now, was this the most comfortable chair or the best iced tea ever? Of course not, but it didn't need to be to accomplish the goal of socializing. Now, I live in Houston, and the idea of sitting on the unair conditioned porch in July, not my idea of a good time. But could I do it for a half an hour visit? Yes, I could. And so could you if it was someone you wanted to spend time with. My point here is that you can set a minimum standard of hospitality for your house and not be isolated because of your clutter. The alternative is waiting until the house is completely organized, which might take years, while you are isolated from family and friends the whole time. No one wants that, whether you have one friend or 30, whether you're an introvert who likes to talk quietly one-on-one, or an extrovert who loves large groups and loud music. Whatever way you prefer to enrich your life, let's make it happen for you, all while you're tackling your decluttering projects at the same time. There are a bunch of different ways to think about entertaining. So, what's your current reality and comfort level with having people in the house? What's your entertainment fantasy about how you like to entertain? Casual or elaborate? How do you get them in sync with each other? Regardless of the answer to these questions, the way that you make your guests feel will stick with them more than anything else. At the very least, you want one space that's always ready to receive guests to sit and have a drink. So let's talk about what would qualify as a minimum for your guest comfort. You're welcoming a guest into your home. So what would they need? They need to be able to walk in through the door and walk along a clear path to somewhere to sit down. You want this walk to be easy and you want it to be safe for them. Then they need a clear space to sit, and you're going to offer them a beverage, say a drink of water or coffee. So you need clean glasses for that, and you need a small surface that they can use to put their drink down. You can serve them next to them, and then they can drink and put their cup down when they're done. Everyone needs access to a bathroom wherever they are. So you need to have one clean bathroom that the guests can use. Ideally, pick one closest to where they're sitting and make sure that path is clear as well. So you want to be able to get up from where they're sitting and walk safely into a bathroom and back again. If you decide to serve snacks or food, you want a clean kitchen surface. If the guest is sitting there watching you prepare food, you want them to feel like the food is safe to eat. If you can provide these basics, then you can have a social life while you work on the rest of the house. Invite people that you love and who know you well, and they'll be happy to see you even though your house isn't immaculate. It might even make them feel more comfortable having you over into their well-lived house. Maybe if you take the first step, someone who's also feeling nervous about being judged for the state of their home will be happy to invite you over to their house. Change your goal from I'm waiting for the house to be perfect before I have friends over to let's figure out a way to have people over while I'm working on the house. Your frame of mind is the most important factor towards successful entertaining. One of my beauty friends says this way: if you notice the mess in my house, you have to help clean it. And therefore, when I visit others, I see nothing. I think this is a very smart advice. In closing, I found a really great quote on this topic, actually, a couple of them. You might be one to fight perfectionism, so here's a little bit of wisdom for you. The best thing I ever did was surround myself with imperfect people. I found friends with messy houses, unorganized closets and cupboards just like me. There really is no perfect. I became healthier and more courageous to be myself when I realized that we're all real people living real lives. Hospitality is not inviting people into our perfect homes. It's all about inviting people into our imperfect hearts. And on that note, let's look at some more survey responses that you answered about entertaining.
Okay, we asked our audience to describe ways in which clutter has interfered with your ability to entertain visitors or host guests in your home. Val says, my home doesn't reflect who I am and how I want to be seen. Even if I was okay with companies seeing some clutter, since I know what their standard of living is, while they won't say anything rude to me, inside I know they will be summing me up as a slob, lazy, crazy. And while that may be partially true, smiley face, is it a smile or a wink? I think it's a wink.
And then
I'm
winky face,
I'm
yeah.
I can never see the little teeny tiny ones, you know.
I know.
Um, Val says, I'm not at the place where I can just shake that off, so I'd rather not have company. It's messed up because a big part of me wants to be hospitable and the clutter is crippling me.
My first thought is this: if they're your friends, are they really judging you as a slob or lazy or crazy? If they're really thinking this, can they truly be your friends? I believe they might think instead, this is a challenge for her. This is what she struggles with or needs help with. But I doubt it's changing how they feel about you. None of us comes to the table as perfect humans. And your friends have space for your perceived flaws and shortcomings because they value all the rest of you. Test the waters that with someone that you really trust. Have them over and then talk about how scared that makes you, how you worry that they're going to judge you. Let them tell you their true feelings instead of you assuming you know what they're feeling. And hopefully that will allay some of your worry about it. We all assume that we know what other people are thinking. Better to call one of your good friends, have them over, and have an honest conversation and find out what they're really thinking. And, I'm sure that they can acknowledge, yes, we know this is a problem for you and we're, concerned about it, or we don't want you to be suffering, or we're afraid that you're not safe, or whatever they want to say about it. But that doesn't mean that they don't love you or that they have stopped feeling like you're their friend. And so check that information out. And don't just assume that everybody that comes over thinks you're lazy and a slob. Find out what they really feel. And in the meantime, be socializing with them while you do it.
Okay, Yvonne says, I wouldn't say the clutter has prevented me from having people over per se, but buying too much junk that I don't need has prevented me from doing the repairs and upgrades that are needed to my house, and that prevents me from inviting people over.
So the thing about repairs and upgrades is they're expensive and it's long-term projects that can be a long-term barrier to your social life. I would figure out how to have people over despite undone repairs. No one's house is perfectly fixed at all times. Learned that lesson the hard way.
Right?
Don't let that be what keeps you from friends and family. You can have people over now and point out things that get repaired as they get done over time. Home repairs are not one and done, fixed in the afternoon. They're usually much bigger projects than that. And they're disruptive while they're happening. So the idea that you're waiting for your house to be perfect when everyone's house is a constant, ongoing repair project, no house doesn't have something that needs to be repaired this minute, right now. I mean, it's just true. There is no house that isn't, every house requires continuous maintenance. That's the direct way to say that. And so I know you feel like your house has to have some repairs to make it be worth it or upgrades to make it do better. But truthfully, you can't wait for those to happen because it's going to take, the fact that you said repairs and upgrades and it's all in plural means that you have a list in your head that's pretty long and it's not going to be fixed anytime soon. And if you have to wait for the mythical moment when all of those things get scratched off the list, it may be way too late. So I think it's way more important for you to aim for letting people come anyway and do the repairs as you are visiting with your friends. Much better
Well,
target.
and I also think Yvonne needs someone to tell her it's okay to forgive her for what the money she spent on junk she doesn't need,
Mm,
the
fair point.
stuff she's let pile up.
The extra stuff.
She said buying too much junk that I don't need has prevented me from doing the repairs, and so that may mean it's partly
She spent the money on
I've
the
spent
stuff
my
instead of the
money
repairs.
other ways, yeah,
Yeah.
and
Hmm.
then, but I would just urge Yvonne not to let herself feel trapped in the situation she's created. We're trying today to sort of help you find a way out of that, and just figure out some way that you can have people over if that's what you want to do.
Exactly.
Um,
And if you spent the money on the stuff instead of the repairs, and which means that the repairs are that much farther down the road, all the more reason to figure out a way to let people come over despite the need for repairs because no one's going to walk through the front door and go, "Oh, you spent the money here instead of there and that's why your house is a wreck." Like that's a lot of judgment and critical thinking all strung together in a row, assuming that all of your friends are going to see that and blame you. Again, they're if that's the tack that they're taking, they're not really your friends. I think that's they're not
yeah.
being, they don't love you for you. And so bring the people over that love you for you, and they will know what's going on with you, and they won't care, and they'll be happy to see you, and it'll be okay.
Well, and I should mention that the friend that you referred to, I told you that story, long, 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 long
Oh
time
yeah, yeah,
ago.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Um,
exactly.
that friend, we, that was early in our relationship. We'd only known each other a couple of years, that I think, at that point.
Mm.
And later on, I think I made it onto the list of people who were allowed to come in the house.
Oh, that's good.
I
See?
didn't see all of the house. She didn't open up the house for tours, but she got to the, yeah, yeah, let me shove something out of the way so you can sit down phase of the relationship. And she never got any judgment from me because I would be in no position to judge.
Right? Exactly. I think people forget that, not it isn't that your house is a wreck and everyone else that's trying to come to your house has a perfect house. They forget that part. It's like it's no one can cast stones because they're not living in a perfect house on their end either. So, you may just be making them feel better. 'Cause- and you know what else? I'll tell you something else. My client zero, who have spent so much time organizing, pulling cardboard out, dialing back their space so that they can live in it comfortably. They let people come over anytime, anywhere. I have a key to their house. I walk into their house, let myself in and come and go up. They have no worries about people coming into their house. And their house, they want to see people, they want to interact with people, they want to spend time with people, and that is way more important to them than anything anybody would think about the state of their house. And so they allow people into spaces that would look super overwhelming to almost anybody else. So you are not the worst, and they let people come to their house all the time. You can aspire to be them, is my point.
There you go.
It'll be okay. People still come to their house.
Okay, let's do one more answer to this question and then move on to the next one. Gabriella says, for a long time, I used to need to clean for several days before I could receive guests.
Mm.
This has changed in the past years, and now I am usually able to clean up in 15 to 20 minutes before my friends come to visit. I love having them over. I recently experienced, however, that my apprehension that I might be judged was not altogether unfounded. After a long time, I finally dared to invite a close friend whom I know to be pretty demanding, as she has commented on clutter or cleanliness problems in the houses of other friends of ours in the past. When I showed her my office, where I'd assembled all my old electronics to be decluttered on top of a cabinet, I saw her frown when she saw it. Apart from the electronics, my office was clutter-free.
So the fact that your friend is overly judgy doesn't mean that you've got a problem. Don't judge yourself by the friend who is the harshest critic. I'm sure our audience would love to be able to clean up in 15 or 20 minutes and receive company. That's a perfectly reasonable standard, and you are crushing it. So I think her judgment of anything that is not perfect is her problem and not yours. She has to live with the impossible standard, but you do not. And you are living the dream of any standard that I would set about if somebody says they're coming over and you can spend 20 minutes cleaning up and feel happy for people to come in the house, then you are doing awesome. And anybody that has judgment about it, the house isn't perfect, they just need to get over it. Like that's just like shut up, right?
Yeah,
Do not take that BS on because that is a standard that is her own mental burden. It's not yours.
yeah.
And you're doing great.
And I think, when Gabriella has reached the point of having that, that when those electronics are gone and that office is completely immaculate,
Mm.
she probably needs to make a point of putting at least one thing out of place just to rattle the cage of her judgy friend. You know,
Make them twitch.
make judgy friend twitch. That's what you get for being so judgy, right?
Right. That's totally right. Like make it, make it a joke for yourself, an internal dialogue to see if you can make the judgy friend twitch because clearly her standard is way too far on the OCD end. So I love that mental image. Go in there and, slide one thing out of place and see if it makes her twitch or not.
Right. Okay, I want to return to the question about what our audience would do if they felt comfortable entertaining. And I'm not going to ask you to comment on all of these. We'll just go through some really quickly, just
Okay.
because I would like for people to hear some of the ideas. Lee says, have friends over for lunch or dinner, have friends over to play board games, have friends or family over to ice skate or pedal boat seasonally.
Oh, that
So
sounds like fun.
Lee must live next to some water that freezes,
Right.
I'm
That
guessing.
freezes over. Right.
Noreen would like more extended family dinners.
Right.
Letter C says, have a nicer place to offer overnight guests.
That's a good goal. That's a very good goal.
Millie would like to have friends in for lunch or dinner and offer to let a guest stay while in town.
And that's a spontaneous thing that you can aim for, right? Like, wouldn't it be great if you find out that suddenly somebody's going to come to town and you can go, oh, you can come and stay with me a night? Wouldn't that be great? Like, if you have the ability to spontaneously offer a room overnight to somebody that suddenly appears, how much fun that you could say that and have them come and stay with you for a night.
Christine
Like it.
says she would like to take care of babies in my baby-proofed house for four tiny grandchildren to stay over for a few
Oh,
days. And with their adult parents are welcome too.
that's good.
Okay, our next survey question was, what would you consider the bare minimum requirements you'd need to achieve to get your space into shape for entertaining? Amanda says no toys on the floor, candle lit, windows open to freshen the space, clean kitchen, clean toilet and sink, fresh towels, put away mail, especially bank and medical stuff.
Those are all reasonable. You want to put away the mail because of your own privacy, right? You don't want your
Right,
banking and
right.
medical stuff out for people to see. And, they would need a clean toilet and sink and, want the kitchen to be clean so that they can prepare food or you can prepare food if they're staying. I like it. No
Le
toys on the floor. Like, just have to throw out no toys on the floor is probably a really high standard if you have little kids in the house. That's, that might be pushing it a little bit. You can aim for less toys on the floor
yeah,
or toys
not
on the
too
floor only in one area.
no no Legos on the floor. How about
No
that?
Legos would be good.
Right.
Yes. Oh, that's funny.
Lee says declutter the common areas, dining room, living room, declutter the guest room if having family visit. Would also like to deep clean these areas.
That sounds like a good spring project. I mean, you're not talking about your whole house. You're talking about 3 rooms: dining room, living room, guest room, and I would add guest bath.
Right.
So if you decluttered and deep cleaned those 4 rooms out of your house, you would have a space for somebody to come and hang out with you. And wouldn't that be great?
Evelyn says clean toilet, clean kitchen sink, clean stove, clean bathroom sink, fresh towels, clean floors and flat surfaces in all the rooms the guest might see.
Okay. So that's now you're asking for a little bit more
More
going
of a
on
tall
there.
order. Yeah.
So the toilet and the kitchen sink and the stove and the bathroom sink. So the toilet and the sink I get, the bathroom sink, and then the idea that the kitchen sink would be clean and the stove would be clean. Okay, I see the point. Um, you might not, wipe cleaning the stove. You might want to just wipe down the stove, right? It's not like you have to. Cleaning the
Yeah.
kitchen sink is probably getting all the dishes out of it, right?
Right.
Finishing that part.
Some of this stuff, I also, want to remind people there's the standard of cleaning to do before the party, but then you're gonna have to clean up after the party too. So maybe don't spend every bit of energy you have getting ready to entertain, because you also want to have some energy left to spend with your guests, you know?
Right? Exactly.
Um, you don't want to completely exhaust yourself getting ready, right?
Well, and the idea of cleaning the floors and all the flat surfaces and all the rooms the guests might see is probably a pretty high standard because basically you could say they might see any room in your house. And so I
Right,
think
right.
we have to say, I'm not going to let them go
Yeah,
to
you
certain rooms of the house and we're going to ignore those rooms and close the door.
yeah,
And so cleaning the floors and the flat surfaces in the public rooms that the guests might see. Okay.
yeah,
And this is the kind of stuff that if you did it in this order, you were running out of steam. Cleaning the floors and the flat surfaces are the last thing to do and might have to be surrendered if you run out of time or steam.
yeah. I want to share a comment. Paula
Mm,
says, I read something from a lady who worked on the US Census, visiting houses of people who didn't respond by the deadline.
mm.
Of 300 houses she visited, only 3 were immaculate. Fully half
There
the
you
house,
go.
fully half the houses didn't have a free seat to sit down in. Another 40% or so she guesstimated would take a couple hours to clean up for company. Dang few of us have spotless homes.
Right? The idea that 3 out of 300,
Right,
1%.
right.
Yeah, see, it's not just you. And everybody's living their life and trying to deal with the same things you are. And so the idea that everybody is judging you, it's like they're just judging themselves.
Here's another good one from Michael. Um, oh, if no, sorry, from Beth in Houston. She didn't change her name on in here. When my first child was born, my house stayed incredibly messy. One day, when the baby was about a week old, I was looking like fill in the blank. You can just imagine. A couple of acquaintances showed up unannounced. When the doorbell rang, I practically had a panic attack, but I quickly gathered my
Oh,
thoughts, answered the door, and invited them in as if everything was perfect. We had a lovely visit that we all enjoyed. They seemed like they didn't even notice the mess. They were just glad to see me and the new baby. Turned out great. I still can't believe I did that.
well, and the truth is, they know perfectly well this was a new baby and a new mother, and they know exactly what you're going through. They were not surprised to find the house in chaos. You're a new mother with a new baby. Like, what else would be happening except exactly what you were experiencing and what it looked like. It was perfectly within the realm of what they expected to be happening. So you don't have to worry about it at all. That's great. I'm glad you let them in because I know you needed to see those people and they wanted to see the baby. They were desperate to see the baby. They were looking at the baby. They were not looking at anything else. So good job for you letting them in.
Okay, we have one more survey question, and I really want to touch on this at least a little
Okay.
because it gets to the what do you need to declutter
Yes. Okay.
question. So, how has your we asked our audience, how has your concept of entertaining evolved over the years? Do the materials, equipment, and supplies you possess, such as special cookware, extra tableware, serving dishes, decorations, party games, etc., still support the types of events you'd like to host? Denise said, I have and use placemats and china and platters, etc., but I have also used paper plates and don't worry about it.
Right. And I think that's the difference between long-term planning for an event and short-term spontaneous event. If it's good or indoor versus outdoor event, right? So the paper plates work just as well, and especially if it's something that you are doing on the fly, you didn't have a lot of time to plan, it's spontaneous, and suddenly people are coming over. You can totally make that happen. Or I'm having barbecue outside and I want everybody to eat on paper plates because we're having barbecue outside. And so it reflects how much time and planning you put into having the event and what kind of stuff you're providing. And great. Use the paper plates.
Um, comment from M. M points out, of course, the 99% who did not have immaculate houses also were not organized enough to answer the census.
True that.
Good point. So that
Very good
might
point.
not be a perfectly representative sample of the population.
But I think it's not far off, truthfully.
Ria says, yes, it's evolved a lot. When I started decluttering 6 or 7 years ago, I admitted how my lifestyle was changing as retirement loomed. In stages, I reduced, then eliminated crystal, extra china and dishes, serveware, etc. I now have enough for a gathering of 6 because I won't be doing larger gatherings in the future.
And that's great to recognize that your your role in hosting the family or friends has evolved as you age and move through your life stages. And you've gotten to the place where a gathering of 6 people is the amount of people that you're willing to manage. And if it's going to be a larger gathering than that, it needs to be somebody else's problem and not yours at your house. So you need to be an attendee, but not the host. And so great that you figured that out and you've dialed everything down to support your new role. And I think a lot of times we forget to do that part as we go down our road of life and evolve in our stages, and we forget, hey, just because I used to have a host of 50-person Super Bowl party every year doesn't mean that I'm going to keep doing that for forever. And that season of life has passed, and now I can, all the things that I used to have that big party, I don't need to keep those things anymore, and I can move on to the next kind of gathering that I'm going to have with 6 people and afternoon tea. So let your accoutrement reflect how you're entertaining now.
Um, an anonymous respondent said, we have all we need. We keep it casual and simple. No sit-down dinner events. We don't have a dining room.
All right.
Kitchen table seats 4 or 6 if you squeeze them in.
Uh,
We always have paper plates and bowls available if needed. Music, movie, or ball game on TV. Grilled meats, hamburgers, hot dogs, big pot of soup, stew, chili, spaghetti, etc., or a fish fry.
oh, want to come to your house? That
Right?
all sounds great. That sounds like a fabulous way to spend the day. And it sounds very summery and fun. And even, the pot of soup and the chili, that sounds like fall and indoor and having a great time. So, what a great idea. And it
Chris,
reflects how you like to entertain, right? It's casual and simple, you said.
yeah. I think it's really important to recognize what your real entertaining
Style.
style is. And style isn't even a great word. It's, you know, because style sounds so superficial. but your appetite, your entertaining
Preference.
preference. Yeah, I don't know what the best word is. I love to entertain, but I'm also kind of an introvert. And so I
Mm,
have recognized over the years that the number of people that I can really enjoy entertaining is about a party of six, maybe eight if it's the right group of people.
and everybody
Because
knows each other really well.
right, but because beyond that, it gets so noisy, and
It's too chaotic.
you have multiple conversations going on at once, and
Mm,
just things that really wear down uh, the introverted part of me very quickly.
mm,
So if there's going to be a big party or gathering, I want it to be at someone else's place, so I can go for as long as I have the energy, and then
hmm.
retreat back to my cave.
Right? Well, and you've also done a lot with your sister and brother-in-law where you've like made food and taken it over there or gone over there and
Right,
cooked with
right.
them and then sat on the patio with the four or five or six of you and had a lovely evening and then gone home again, right? So
Yeah. Yep.
very rewarding, entertaining for you guys.
Okay, one more comment I want to share, and then we're gonna have to wrap it up.
Okay.
Cami says, I wonder if my own judgment and perfectionism make it too overwhelming to actually declutter. If I'm judging my current state of clutter by perfectionist standards, that's depressing and demotivating. I wanted to share with you, it's not specifically related to entertaining, but just wanted to get your take on that.
That's a okay. So I hate for you. It sounds like you're um, really judging yourself harshly, and I wouldn't want you to think about it that way.
Well, Paula said this is why so many professional organizers say progress over perfectionism.
Yes, yes, yes. That's exactly true. Like you can't, we've talked about many times that you can't wait to reward yourself at the end of the project because it's so long to turn a space around. There's a lot of labor involved, and the idea of not cheering yourself on until you get to the very end is so defeating and negating. And so trying to be your own cheerleader earlier on in the project. I've got something accomplished today. I did a certain amount of stuff today. I got something done today. Um, and having that house entertainment point of view about I don't have to wait until the house is perfect to have people over is another version of that, trying to say you do not have to wait for perfection until you try to engage your social life again and have people over again. It is waiting for it to be perfect, waiting for all the repairs to be done, waiting for all of the clutter to be out, waiting for all the projects to be finished is a airy and illusory goal that is very hard to achieve. And if you stall until you hit some perfect future, you will never get there. You will never enjoy any of the things that you're dreaming of. And so, you know, my house isn't completely unpacked, but I still have, TV night with one of my friends who comes over and watches TV with me on Friday nights. And, is the house beautiful? No, it's not how I want it yet, but I don't want to not spend that time with my friends. And so having people over is a reward that you give yourself for any amount of work that you do. I guess is this thing that I want to say about it is you don't want to wait until everything is perfect in any context from any point of view,
Yeah.
because you're robbing yourself of experiencing your life and enjoying the benefits and the special parts of life that enrich you and make you feel happy.
The benefits of good enough.
Yeah, 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 exactly.
All right, we are out of time. We're going to be back next week at the usual time. That's Tuesday, February 25th. And we're going to talk about paper. It's tax time in the United States. And so we're going to talk a little bit about tax papers and just about all sorts
All
of
the
different
other papers.
types of paper that are collecting, because it's been a long time since we've touched on that. So join us next week. Don't have a snappy title for it yet, but watch your email.
Okay, the snappy title is forthcoming.
Yes, snappy title to come.
All right, this week's tittle is Mi casa es su casa. This week's assignment varies according to where you find yourself on your decluttering journey and how ready you are to welcome guests into your home. We hope that today's episodes helped you realize you might be closer than you previously thought. If you still can't even imagine opening your home to guests, spend some time this week identifying and planning a decluttering task or project aimed at specifically getting your home a little more ready for company. If you've already identified specific clutter barriers to entertaining in your home, spend some time this week carrying out a decluttering task or project to clear one or two of those barriers, such as deep cleaning the guest bathroom. That's always a good one. If your home feels mostly ready for entertaining, spend some time this week on any small projects or tasks that can help take you the rest of the way, such as corralling and organizing your party supplies, maybe. If you're ready to entertain at any moment, good for you. Spend some time this week on decluttering and organizing party supplies, decorations, special serving pieces or tableware, and such to eliminate anything you no longer need or use. And if you have no aspirations to entertain or host guests at all, pretend you're a visitor in your own space and then spend some time this week on a decluttering project or task that will make your home more pleasant and comfortable just for you. We recognize not everybody wants to have an endless flow of people through their house and their life. So if that's you, you can just declutter for your own pleasantness and your own comfort. And then come back and tell us about it, how it went next week. We would love to hear from you again.
I want to share one more comment because I think the punchline is important. So
Okay.
Jane says, I volunteer with a dog rescue. When it rains, I sometimes have folks meet dogs in my garage. Although I'm sensitive about how my garage looks due to ongoing feedback from a neighbor, I recently had an adopter comment on how organized my garage is.
Well,
Clut
there you go.
Clutter is in the eye of the
A
beholder.
beholder. Oh my God. And your whiny ass neighbor needs to get his nose out of your business because it isn't his garage.
I think
So
it's her, the
shut,
neighbor.
yeah, the neighbor needs to shut the hell up. That is not her business. And so good for you. Good for you for accepting and acknowledging another point of view, which is look how organized your garage is. It's so beautiful. And I'm sure the neighbor is repetitive and insistent about their, irritation. And you can invite them to come over and clean it for you if they'd like.
Mhm.
You might ask them, or do they want to clean it for you? Then come on over. Maybe somebody, maybe you can have a more organized garage on somebody else's labor and suffering. If they have that big of an opinion about it, they need to come and do some work. There you go. All right.
If
Thank you for sharing that one.
if you're watching this on YouTube, we would love for you to join us live. To get notifications about upcoming events, we invite you to join the meetup group by visiting cfhou.com/meetup. You can also follow us on Facebook by visiting cfhou.com/Facebook or join our mailing list by visiting cfhou.com/subscribe. We love to hear from you, so please keep your comments, questions, and topic suggestions coming on YouTube, Facebook, or anywhere that you find us. You can always reach us through our website at clutterfairyhouston.com.
Thank you so much for joining us. We are always happy that you're here. And we will be back next week to talk about some paper because I love to talk about paper. So,
Oh, yeah.
oh, yeah. So come and listen to me talk again. We'll see you next week.
Bye-bye.
Bye.